I'm Anitya Kamalatmananda, a Hindu monk from the Sri nations of Kailasa. Today I speak not just from the pain, but from the outreach. Many of us once led successful lives, holding advanced degrees, have respected careers, and every material comfort. I myself hold a university degree in philosophy. We choose to leave all behind, not out of coercions, not from ignorance, but from deep inspirations, the kind that transform lives. We choose a higher path, one of non-violence, ahimsa, spiritual services, sevas, and unconditional contribution to the humanity. That inspirations came from the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, His Divine Holiness Nityananda Paramashiva, whose tireless humanitarian work touches deeply. And how has the media, New York Times, responded? With lies, hatred, and persecution. A recent article by the New York Times has crossed every line of decency and truth. It's not just inaccurate, it's dangerous. It fans the flames of religious hate, fuels bigotry against Hinduism, and puts the lives of the peaceful human Hindu monks like me in serious danger. Enough is enough. Let me tell you what they misrepresented. I was in Bolivia when our peaceful community of Hindu devotees and monks was attacked simply for existing. 19 women, most of them fellow monks, fellow Hindu monks, were illegally detained, mistreated, and subject to illegal expulsions. Among them was a pregnant woman, an elderly woman, and minor. These were not faceless statistics. They are my sisters, and I witnessed the trauma firsthand. They broke no laws. They had valid visas. On March 21st, 2025, a group of over 20 armed officers raided our residence in Bolivia without warrant and explanations. Yet, no one questions the lack of legal procedures. The New York Times claims to prioritize integrity in their reporting. But where is the integrity in this article? Their piece doesn't reflect a commitment to truth or fairness. The facts have been distorted, the context ignored, and the individuals involved are denied basic rights under international law. After illegal detentions in immigration's office with violations of the basic human rights, including the right to legal representations, and after being told they had 3 days to appeal, they voluntarily decided to leave the next day. They had boarding passes, yet they were denied boarding, and their passports were seized without explanations. The New York Times didn't even bother to report on this denial of due process. Instead, they chose to ignore these details. They were preparing to leave the country voluntarily, but instead they were dragged from the public waiting area of the airport in the middle of the night, despite having boarding passes thrown into vehicles and dumped at the border of the Peru by Bolivian immigration and police. There were no legal documents to justify these actions. Here's the questions. If they were truly committing illegal acts, why would they have been subject to illegal expulsions without facing charges, a trial, or any form of legal process? It's for nothing that the New York Times prides itself on its missions to give news impartially without fear or favor. They claim to follow the truth wherever it leads. But here's the issue. If the facts didn't lead to us being guilty or any crime, why are they presenting us as a criminals without evidence? This isn't impartial reporting, nor does it follow the truth. In fact, it contradicts their own pledge to uphold integrity. To the operators of the anti-Hindu media at the New York Times, before you continue your systematic hate campaigns, the world deserves answer to some fundamental questions. 1. Who gave you global jurisdictions to interfere in the peaceful diplomatic relations between US Hindus and indigenous Bolivian communities? 2. By what authority do you involve the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, but he never visited Bolivia, never signed any agreement, and has nothing to do with this MOU? 3. Who is funding your corrupt media and the New York Times and their anti-Hindu persecution campaigns? 4. Which element of anti-Hindu deep states are financing your systematic attacks, suggesting that the entire Hindu diaspora has no right to exist? I also want to address the violence you are enabling. Why does your narrative contribute to violence and hate? By spreading lies about our peaceful community, we are providing cover for those who wish to incite violence against us. Let me be clear. The agreements with the indigenous Bolivian nations were signed by the Hindu humanitarian organizations based in the United States, not Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, not Kailasa, and not the 19 volunteers whom you wrongly frame. The MOU was reviewed by the multiple legal experts, notarized and protocolized in full accordance with the legal standards. I will personally take legal actions against New York Times for inciting Hindu genocides, for repeatedly publishing lies, and for delegitimizing our lawful efforts to establish a Hindu nation. I will also request compensations for the harm caused by the false and damaging narratives. We will remain committed to the creating a peaceful environment, doing humanitarian work, and being inspired by the selfless work of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. We believe in the pursuit of truth, and we will not be silenced by the false narratives. New York Times, you claim that your mission is to uphold excellence in journalism, yet this piece of falls short of these standards. Your failure to report the facts with integrity undermines the very trust that you claim to hold with your readers. We continue our pursuit of justice and truth, and we will not allow sensationalism and false narratives to define us. It's time the New York Times aligns their words with their actions and upholds the integrity they also proudly claim to stand for. We ask for responsible journalism based on the truth and fairness. Stand with us and fight for justice and transparency.